Christy's here.
Okay. So, Gil and Christy, is Christy there too? And do
Yes,
you have your prayer books? Because I was going to ask you guys if you would like to be the Umze team tonight and recite the opening and closing prayers.
Yeah.
Gil, can you do that?
Yeah.
Well, maybe not. Okay.
Twice in English, once in Tibetan.
Yes, any way you'd like to do it. Twice in English, once in Tibetan is wonderful if you'll do that.
Okay.
All right, so everybody, if you've got your prayer books, we're going to recite the opening prayers, and Gil and Christy will be the Umze tonight. All right. Everybody, okay, very good. Everybody join in, and please make sure that your microphones are muted so that we don't have feedback and so on.
We're ready?
Yes, please.
All mother sentient beings, especially those enemies who hate me, obstructors who harm me, and those who create obstacles on my path to liberation and omniscience, may they experience happiness, be separated from suffering. Swiftly I will establish them in the state of past, perfect, complete, and precious Buddhahood. All mother sentient beings, especially those enemies who hate me, obstructors who harm me, and those who create obstacles on my path to liberation and omniscience, may they experience happiness, be separated from suffering, and now swiftly I will establish them in the state of unsurpassed, perfect, complete, and precious Buddhahood. Dog Lord Dang War J Pe Dra No Par J Pe Gig Ta Par Dang Dam Che Kin Pe Bardu Cho Par J Pa Tam Che Ki So J Pe Manam Ka Dang Nam Pe Chen Tam Che De Wa Dang Din Dug Nal Dang Drill Nor Du Lu Nam A Yang Dak Par Zo Pe Dang Wo She Ta Par Cha. What next?
The next one.
Oh. Thus, until I achieve enlightenment, I perform virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. Until death, I perform virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. From now until this time tomorrow, I perform virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. No, we don't do that. Do we do that in Tibetan too? Thus, until I achieve enlightenment, I perform virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. Until death, I perform virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. Until this time tomorrow, I perform virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. Deche du sang mige ki bardulu nagi sange walako. Mashe bardulu nagi sange walako. Du de ring ne sangte mina sangda samgi bardulu nagi sange walako. We take refuge in the kind root and lineage Lama. We take refuge in the deities of the mandalas of the yidams. We take refuge in all the exalted Buddhas. We take refuge in the perfect Dharma. We take refuge in the excellent order of the Sanghas. We take refuge in noble Dakas, Dakinis, and Dharma guardians, possessors of the eye of wisdom. We take refuge in the kind root and lineage Lamas. We take refuge in the deities of the mandalas of the yidams. We take refuge in all the exalted Buddhas. We take refuge in the perfect Dharma. We take refuge in all the orders of Sanghas. We take refuge in all the Dakas, Dakinis, and Dharma guardians, possessors of the eye of wisdom. Rinchen so Adangi Bachebi Palden Lama Dampanam Lakap Suchio Yidam Kyokigula Shognam Lakap Suchio Sangachum Dindanam Lakap Suchio Dampechanam Lakap Suchio Papegidanam Lakap Suchio Pawokadrokukan Sameshi Kijindan Banam Lakap Suchio. Until I attain the heart of enlightenment, I take refuge in all the Buddhas. I take refuge in the Dharma, and likewise in the assembly of the Bodhisattvas. As the previous Buddha embraced the enlightened mind and progressed in the Bodhisattva path, I too, for the benefit of all sentient beings, first to bodhicitta and apply myself to accomplish the stages of the path. Till I attain the heart of enlightenment, I take refuge in all the Buddhas. I take refuge in the Dharma, and likewise in the assembly of the Bodhisattvas. As the previous Buddha embraced the enlightened mind and progressed on the Bodhisattva path, to, for the benefit of all sentient beings, give birth to bodhicitta and apply myself to accomplish the stages of the path. Changchub Ningpo Chiki Parsange Nam Lakyab Suchi Chodang Changchub Senpai Yiso Glayang Deshen Gapsuchi Jitar Nina Gite Sheki Changchub Tagni Ki Padang Changchub Senpai La Pala De Dagren Shane Patar Deshendro La Pindon Du Chang Chup Sen Niki Gishing Deshendu Ni La Pa La Rempa Shendu La Parshi. In the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha most excellent, I take refuge until enlightenment is reached by the merit of generosity and other good deeds, attain Buddhahood for the sake of all sentient beings. In the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha most excellent, I take refuge until enlightenment is reached by the merit of generosity and other good deeds. May I attain Buddhahood for the sake of all sentient beings. Sangye Shodang Chogi Chognam La Chang Chu Bardu Dag Nigab Suchi Dagi Jenso Ki Pe Sonam Ki Drola Pinchu Sangye Drupasho. Four measurables. May all mother sentient beings, boundless as the sky, have happiness and the causes of happiness. May they be liberated from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they never be separated from the happiness that is free from sorrow. May they rest in equanimity, free from attachment and aversion. May all mother sentient beings, boundless as the sky, have happiness and the causes of happiness. May they be liberated from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they never be separated from the happiness that is free from sorrow. May they rest in equanimity, free from attachment and aversion. Madam Kadang Nampe Senchen Tamche Dewa Dang Dewe Yudang Den Parjurchi Dugnal Dang Dugnel Gig Yudang Browar Jurchi Dugnel Mepe Dewa Dang Mi Drawar Jurchi Nering Chak Dang Nidang Drowe Tang Yam La Ne Parjurchi. What next?
Page 12, please, just in English.
Likewise be extinguished. Extinguish all enemies of my purpose. Whatever evil forces are in me, be defeated. Do this so that when I am victorious, all pure radiance melts into me, completely purified. Take all this knowledge, food, and drink peacefully, enjoy it, and be satisfied so that all obstacles may be destroyed. Be liberated from all obstacles, all general obstacles. Maras are defeated by the gestures of the Buddha. By reciting this mantra, may all Maras be purified. As a result, may the Maras be defeated.
Very good. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, so tonight we're going to talk about the Bardos. I know some of you might be familiar with this, some of you are not, and so it's going to be a refresher for some, and it's going to be new information for others. So the Bardos are the intermediate states. So I'm going to use a screen share. I'm going to use a PowerPoint that we developed a while ago for Khenpo Samdup from his book, Learning Buddhism. So in that book is this particular chapter, I think it's chapter 13 or 16, is the 6 Bardos. And if anybody wants the text from this chapter, I can email the PDF to you if you want that. I can put it in our WhatsApp and you can download it. You can open it up and read it on your phone or your computer, whatever. It'll be in a PDF form where you can print it if you prefer to do that. So this screen share that I'm going to show you, this PowerPoint, is really an outline based on that chapter. So just to give you an introduction to the introduction, there are 6 Bardos, the intermediate states. And so this is when we talk about cyclic existence, this is part of the cyclic existence that beings are going through. And that we are right now, we are living in the Bardo of the waking state. The waking state is our Bardo, the Bardo of living that we're living in now. And during this time, being in this Bardo of living, we have experiences of the Bardo of dreaming, the intermediate state of dreaming. So when we lay down, we go to sleep at night or during the day, whenever it is that we go to sleep, and we begin to have these dreams, which are really involuntary. In the beginning, we have no control over these dreams. They just come and we experience them much as anything else. You know, they seem very real to us and so on, but sometimes we remember those dreams and sometimes not. And those dreams sometimes can be very vivid, and they can be about emotional things that are happening to us on a daily basis. And those are the first part of our nighttime sleep, is when we have those kinds of dreams. The second kind of dreams we have are later on at night, in the late morning hours before we rise up, before we wake up, like 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock in the morning. We have dreams that are very deep and very spiritual and often need to be interpreted. They're very symbolic of other things. And that part of the dream is what we talk about going into our real spiritual nature at that point. The first part is like our everyday kind of emotional dreams. The second part is more that deeper spiritual part. So within our living Bardo, we experience the Bardo of dreams. But then we also, during our Bardo of living, can experience the Bardo of meditation, the meditation Bardo. So this is controlled. This is something that we have to cultivate. This is something that we have to develop. And in this, we are having a pure spiritual experience by way of what it is that we've been learning, going through the different stages of our meditation, learning to do the opening prayers, set our motivation, learning to do the 4 thoughts that turn the mind to the Dharma, and so on. So all that is all part of developing that spiritual experience. And when we do the meditation, when we have that meditation, we are lifting ourselves, we are transcending our ordinary physical, intellectual body, our mindfulness, into that meditative state and so on. So we have control over that, although it takes time for us to develop that. So that is the third Bardo, and is part of the Bardo of living. The fourth Bardo is the Bardo of death, that we all go through this period where we are, if we're not prepared, we go through, dropping our body. Our physical body begins to stop operating. We go through a sequence of events that happen, that we experience, and we are crossing over now from the Bardo of living into this Bardo of death, which is very, very short. It doesn't take very long to do that. And we need to be prepared for that. Otherwise, what we do, if we go into that energized with negativity, if we go into that energized with rage or with mean-spiritedness, that has a lot of influence in what happens afterwards. And when we go into the next Bardo after that. So to be in control of the Bardo of death is a very powerful thing. And we have given ourselves the gift of this life, this Bardo of living, and we have this gift of death as well. And we need to be able to prepare ourselves for that by understanding how this gift operates and what the benefits are to be able to direct, to be able to control our Bardo of passing, of the Bardo of death into the next Bardo. So that next Bardo, the fifth Bardo, is referred to as the Bardo of reality. And this Bardo of reality is where we experience pure spirit. Right now, we're going through our physical body, we're going through our intellectual body, and we're awakening our realization of the Bardo of spirituality. This is what we've been doing. But when we drop our body, our physical body goes, our intellectual body goes, and all that we are is just pure spirit. Sometimes they refer this as the spiritual body or even the mental body, the mental spiritual body. And in this is where we experience the symbology of all this stuff that we talk about. So it may not be very literal. We're learning it in a literal way, but in that Bardo, everything's very symbolic. And so that by practicing our meditations, you see, prepares us for that Bardo of reality. And that Bardo of reality is like the other side of our hand, that we can take that Bardo of reality, or what we recognize in that Bardo of reality, we can see that in this Bardo of living. So we have glimpses of that in the Bardo of dreams, and we have glimpses of it in the Bardo of meditation. And so we are actually, we become one with that Bardo in the Bardo of reality. So that's after we go through the Bardo of death. So we're going to talk all about these a little bit more as soon as I finish this part of the introduction. If we can remain in that Bardo of reality, which is freedom, which is pure love, pure compassion, pure bodhicitta, and not come back as a human being, just remain in that state, I mean, that's a goal. That's something that we would like to be able to do. So, but when we're not able to remain there, when there's difficulty because we have karmic winds that are blowing us back to wanting to have a body because we're not prepared for that high degree of freedom that is in that Bardo of reality. So we want to have another life. We want to have another body. And depending on those karmic winds, depending on what our intention is, what our motivation is, etc., that's what drives us or moves us into the Bardo of becoming. And this Bardo of becoming is also it can be called the Bardo of rebirth, because here it's where we meet our next life. So if we're to be born a human being, to have a womb birth, where we're going to be born as an animal or a reptile or insect, or in the different realms. We talked about the 6 human realms, if we're going to be born in the hell realms, born in the God realms, etc. All these things, you see, are all being characterized in the study of the Bardos, of the 6 Bardos. So this is the intellectualization of this very spiritual process and so on. So we're doing this symbolically because it's all very non-conceptual as it's all occurring. And what we're trying to do is to prepare ourselves for that non-conceptuality, for that freedom, so that we can flow with that. You'll see what I mean as we dig a little deeper into this. So this Bardo of becoming, this Bardo of rebirth, is how it is that we become a human being or whatever. As we are doing this process, we have remembrances, we have glimpses of being part of this before, because we've been born many times and we've died many times. This idea of the reincarnation and so on is something that is very much a part of this migration that we go through, this cyclic migration that we go through of these different lifetimes and so on. So we've already experienced this, and we start to remember things, aspects about this. You know, the expression déjà vu. You know, we start to remember these things. So, and we might remember them as very abstract things. They may not be very concrete things. So we have to keep an open mind about this. And again, we'll see how this progresses. So we become a human being, we're born in the Bardo of living again, and then we go through this process over and over and over again. Does anybody have any questions or comments before I go any further? I'm gonna have a little drink of water. So you might want to take notes. The Bardo Todhol is a book that was composed by Padmasambhava, Guru Rinpoche. And this is a guidebook for this whole experience. So it is called the Book of Natural Liberation by Hearing in the Intermediate States, is what Bardo Todhol means. And the more popular title of that book is called the Tibetan Book of the Dead. So you may have heard of that.
Lance,
Yes,
I've started reading that. It's as you know, it's a tremendous undertaking. So it has to be read slowly and carefully, because it's not a dime novel. It's very, very deep stuff, and you have to think about, at least I have to think about every paragraph and try to see if I understand what it means. And I'm not sure that I do, but I soldier on and try to read it. It's a big, huge book, of course, as you know, because I'm sure you have it.
yes, thank you. Yes, well, at some point in the not too distant future, we will go through the Bardo Todhol and talk nonstop, through a series of sessions like this. We'll talk about that.
That would be great.
So what we're going to do tonight is just an introduction to the Bardos themselves. Okay, so thank you for that, Carrie. All right, so now I'm going to screen share this. Let me get myself set up here just a second. As you may know, there's other screens that layer on top of these things that we don't always see. What do we got here? One second. There we go. Okay. One more second. I got to get rid of this. So if anybody has any questions or comments, please just let me know. And just turn your microphone and come in. So this is chapter 16 of the book Learning Buddhism by Khenpo Samdop. So like I said, it's not available in print anymore. There might be some copies around, but I can send you the PDFs of those chapters if you want them. So just let me know about this. Okay, so the 6 Bardos. As long as we have this precious human life, we have a great opportunity to prepare for the time of our death. Dedicate ourselves to Dharma, practice now. So every meditation, every session that we do, meditative session, is a rehearsal for that process of death. So this precious human life. So when we talk about the four thoughts that turn the mind to the Dharma, the first of those is this precious human life. So there are many, many, many more beings who have a human life, but we couldn't say that they have a precious human life because they haven't been able to open themselves up for any number of reasons to the qualities of bodhicitta, of understanding their spiritual life and so on. So we refer to that as this precious human life. So in this precious human life, we have this opportunity to prepare for the time of our passing, of dropping our intellectual, physical body and become pure spirit. So the Bardo is the intermediate state, the time in between these different levels or these different experiences that we have as being precious human beings. So so here they're listed. So here is the natural Bardo of birth. This is the waking state. Within that is the second Bardo of dreaming. And also within the natural Bardo of birth is the Bardo of meditative concentration. So I just gave a little bit of an introduction to that. The fourth Bardo is the Bardo of death, where from the Bardo of birth, the Bardo of living, the waking state, we are going through this very highly charged Bardo of death. And the way in which we move into that Bardo from the Bardo of living has a great deal to do with how we are reborn or not reborn. If we go tormented with some kind of rage or doing some kind of evil deed or being upset or not being able to be peaceful when we pass away, that has an influence on how it is that we experience the next Bardos to come. So we want to be very relaxed. We want to be totally prepared for this. The next Bardo is called the Bardo of innate nature, or the Bardo of reality, innate nature. This is the innate that is the nature that we have no control over. We have no real words for. We just use this as an example. It is the non-conceptual state. We have moments of glimpses of that in our waking state, in our dream state, in our meditative state. We can have glimpses of that, and we try and stabilize that through our meditations and so on. But it is beyond human comprehension in being able to express it. It is birthless in its nature. It is deathless in its nature. It is the innate nature. And in Tibetan, this is called the choni. And in Sanskrit, it's called the dharmata, the state of reality. And then either if we can remain in the Bardo of innate nature, if we can remain, then we are a Buddha. We are enlightened and we remain there. There's no need for us to reincarnate as a human being, as a sentient being. So this is what we refer to as going to that place that we don't have to come back as a human being. So for those of us who are not capable of remaining in that free state, that we yearn to have a body, we need to have a body because we are fearful, because we have unresolved karmic issues that need to be dealt with and so on, that we go through the Bardo of becoming back into a physical body. So just what that physical body is, it can be almost anything, dependent on what our karma is and how we have guided that, what we have done. So everything that we're doing in this life, you see, is our development of elements of what our future life will be. So so this Bardo of becoming is that period of time when we are crossing back into being a human being, or back into whatever life form there might be. So we include all of the experiences that we have as sentient beings wandering in samsara, the 6 realms of cyclic existence. So we've talked about this, the 6 realms, the 6 human realms of cyclic existence. And these are the 6 realms of samsara. And then we talked about nirvana. We talked about that temporary, peaceful blissfulness that we transcend the samsaric experience of the 6 realms of cyclic existence. And if we can stabilize that nirvana, that when we die, when we drop our body, then we will cross into the Bardo of reality, and it will be stable for us, and we'll be able to maintain that level of being a Buddha, of being free. So here again is the image of the wheel of samsara. So the God realm was up here at the top, number 1. The demigod realm was over here on this side. The human realm was over here on this side. These are the 3 higher realms: the God realm, the demigod realm, and the human realm. Then the 3 lower realms were the animal realm, which is over here, number 4. Number 5 was the hungry ghost realm here. And number 6 were the 18 hell realms. If you remember, we talked about them. So these are the 3 lower realms. And then around the circumference of this sphere are the 12 links of interdependent origination. And we talked about those a few weeks ago. And all of this is in the grip of the Mara, of our demon, that is causing us to have this life in samsara over and over and over again. And up here in this upper right-hand corner is an image of the Buddha, who is showing us the way to nirvana, who is showing us the way to be able to liberate ourselves to freedom, and so on. So the Buddha is outside, is not within the grasp of the Mara, but we as ordinary beings are in this grasp of being a human being, susceptible to that. And that there is a Buddha in each one of these 6 realms that leads us to the Buddha of being able to transcend this suffering, this samsaric experience that we have. So first we talk again about the natural Bardo of birth. We must really contemplate the transitory nature of existence, impermanence and death, karma, cause and effect. So if you remember in the 4 thoughts that turn the mind to the Dharma, that we contemplate this transitory nature, this impermanence. We talk about that. We talk about passing, how imminent it can be. And we have a very short lifetime, and that we need to prepare ourselves for that. And that we need to be able to understand karma, cause and effect, and we need to be able to control our causes, our attachments, and our aversions to the actions that we take, which is the karma. And then the results of that karma are those effects that are dictating what is happening to us in our life, how we're reacting to these conditions that are all around us in this phenomenal nature and so on. And we can take these results, these effects, into the Bardo of reality with us. And it then dictates how it is that we are reacting to the to that Bardo of reality, and how it is that we are becoming again, being reborn back into having a body. This is the natural Bardo of birth. And we should ponder, how much time has gone by in this Bardo? How much time do I have left until the Bardo of death begins? What is the most important thing to do with this life? So, we could say that, maybe we have 60 years, maybe we have 70 years, 80 years, but very few of us have 100 years. Some of us have 40 years. So very short lifetimes, and respect to the rest of what we consider to be nature and so on. Our lifetime is very, very short, like the finger click of a hand is how quickly our life is. So we have to prepare for the Bardo of death as soon as we realize that there is something that we can do with that we can control that we have an effect on that, and that we need to be able to master that through our practices and so on. What is the most important thing to do with this life is that we have control, that we have this desire, but we have this ability to change. This is the most important thing to do with this life, is to educate ourselves, to realize these things, to be able to overcome our defilements, our emotions, the causes of those emotions, etc., and to be able to liberate ourselves into becoming an enlightened being, a Buddha. The next is only the karmic propensities of our virtuous and non-virtuous deeds will accompany us at the time of our death. So only our karmic propensities, those results of those actions, the karmic deeds, the actions that we take, and those propensities that we have developed of our virtuous and non-virtuous, the good things that we've done and the negative things that we've done, will accompany us at the time of death. This is what we take with us. We don't take any physical baggage, but we take the baggage of these virtues and non-virtues that we take with us. So being responsible for that is a huge part of becoming on the path, of recognizing what it is that we're doing on the path. Intelligent people have no regrets. They are satisfied. They're prepared for death. They have a practice of virtue, and nothing weighs on their conscience at the time of death. These are intelligent people. People who are exposed to spirituality will have these qualities about them. And this is what we've been trying to introduce to you through the Dharma teachings. This is the gift of the Buddha, by calling to our attention that all these things are issues that have caused us to have this life that we have right now, and how to liberate ourselves from the suffering of this life into everlasting happiness, into everlasting joy. So these are those qualities. So then we come into the Bardo of dreaming, or during this time of the Bardo of living, we experience the Bardo of dreaming. Every night, every day, whenever it is that we sleep, we have these sleeping episodes. So this Bardo of dreaming has deep sleep, where there's no conscious feeling. We don't feel with our body anymore. We don't see, we don't hear, we don't taste or smell. We're in deep sleep. All our senses are resting. Our karmic winds of ignorance gather. The karmic winds of ignorance gather during this period. And this is the dreams that we might be having, those emotional dreams that we're having, that maybe 2:00 in the morning we wake up with these, in a sweat, or we're angry, or we're perplexed, or we're having some moments of great pleasure because of these karmic winds of ignorance that are gathering during this time, during this early part of our sleep. These experiences of the sense faculties arise as illusory dream experiences. So we may think that we're smelling something, we may think that we're touching something, or that we're hearing something, but these are all illusory dream experiences. So this is what the brain does. This is what happens in the brain. The brain's job is to think. And part of the thinking process are these dreams. So we can have daydreams like that too, where we just kind of drift off into this daydream and have something that's seems very real to us, but at the same time it's quite illusory. So this Bardo of dreaming is similar to the experience in death, that we're crossing from one Bardo to the other. And that which was before us, that came before, is very much like the dream. But then right now, what we're experiencing seems very real to us. But just like whatever you were doing at 6 o'clock tonight or 5 o'clock tonight, to you now is like a dream. But now what we are doing right now, this very moment that we're having this conversation and you're looking at your screen and listening to what we say and everything, this is very real to you right now. But in a few minutes, that will become like a dream. So all this is like that experience in going through death, from crossing from one thing to another. And we can't go backwards. We're always moving in a forward direction, but the only time that really matters is the time that we're in right now. Be here now. So dreams are as delusional appearances, delusional experiences. And we've talked about that this reality that we're in now is nothing more than delusional appearances of the mind that is fixated on all these objects, and we think that they are real, but they are just all temporary. They are delusional, just like our dreams are. And that sounds like a paradox, but that becomes something that we need to be able to understand, to contemplate. And so we need to dig deeper to be able to understand that. So through the process of our meditation, we begin to understand the finer parts of what that means, this delusional appearances and the experiences of death, these dream experiences, the illusory things. So the dreams manifest as delusional experiences, and the dream illusions are similar to daytime experiences. Both nighttime and daytime experiences arise due to karmic imprints in the mind stream. So what that means is our emotions are driving these dreams, these emotions. And the emotions are based on the 5 poisons. So we've talked about that many times. And the emotions are, we talked about that there's 84,000 emotions, all the different myriad combinations of those 5 poisons and all varying different percentages, and together with different conditions create all these different emotions and so on. So these are the karmic imprints in our mind stream, which is all temporary, which is within our brain. Because we are sentient beings, we suffer from the delusion of apprehending things as real and substantially existent. Because we are sentient beings, we suffer from the delusion of apprehending things as real and substantially existent. So this is one of the faults of samsara. This is one of the sufferings of samsara. And this is the 4 thoughts that turn the mind to the Dharma again, talking about that we think all this is permanent. We think all this is real. We think that all this is really existing, but it's all just time and space. And what we think is real now in just a few minutes is going to disappear and become like a dream to us. So being able to recognize that is to be able to be free from the attachment or the aversions to that. So then it says, actually, what we experience in both states, awake and dream, is illusory. So this is an understatement of what we've just been talking about. It is our mistaken understanding and our fixation that things have true existence that keeps us wandering in cyclic existence and perpetuates the experience of samsara. It's this notion that we have that all this is real and that all this is everything is here. There's nothing else beyond this. This is the top of the pile. This is the best thing that we can be. This is the greatest. And we want to have this experience over and over again. And we're willing to come back over and over again to this, despite the fact that we're going through all this suffering. We're not recognizing the suffering. We're not recognizing the suffering as suffering. So the analogy is like the fish in water. And you go to the fish and you say to the fish, well, what do you think about this water you're swimming around in? And he says, well, what water? This is his world. We live in this ocean of suffering, this ocean of samsara, and we've come to expect and to be able to think that this is everything that there is. We don't realize how much it is that we are suffering. Now, that's not to say that we can't transform that suffering into an acceptance and make it become our bliss, make it to become our happiness. Not that we're becoming masochistic or anything like that, but what we are doing, we are taking that suffering, bringing it onto the path of enlightenment and neutralizing it with the wisdom of virtue, so that we're no longer attached and we're no longer have aversions to the happiness or to the sufferings. We just become in balance. We become in a state of what we might say a nirvana, or like the shamatha meditative calm abiding experience. So we go to the next. It says, someone who has realized the perfect meaning of the Dharma understands that both dreams and the appearances of the waking state are illusions. Let me repeat that. Someone who has realized the perfect meaning of the Dharma understands that both dreams and the appearances of the waking state are illusions. Practice recognizing or awakening to the illusory nature of both states. So this is our practice. This is the Dharma. This is the Dharma with a capital D. This is the Buddha Dharma. This is the gift that the Buddha has given to us to be able to recognize and articulate this in our everyday mind, in our intelligent way, to be able to recognize these appearances and our dreams as the waking state are illusions. And that by being able to let them go, by practicing to let them go. And what we develop is this mindfulness of samadhi, this even-temperedness, this peacefulness, this quietude, this bodhicitta, where everything that we do is with bodhicitta, that we become an enlightened being. In the dream state and the waking state, practitioners will be able to supplicate the Lama, consciously turn and engage experiences into illusory virtue, and cause merit and virtue to multiply. So in this dream state, the waking state, we'll be able to supplicate the Lama. So we can control our dreams. In the beginning, it's impossible to control our dreams. But through practice, through learning how to develop a dream yoga, a union with our dreams, we can supplicate the Lama that is within ourselves. The teachings that the Lama has given us, our Lamas that we meet and teach, are teaching us to recognize that we have that wisdom within ourselves, and that we can supplicate that Lama in our waking state, we can supplicate that Lama in our dream state, so that we can consciously turn and engage experiences into illusory virtue. Illusory virtue. So we can have those dream experiences. We can have these everyday waking experiences, and they are real experiences in terms of being able to demonstrate our activity in life, what it is that we're doing, who it is that we are doing it as, what we are, how we are behaving, what our conduct is, what our thoughts are, and so on, to be able to recognize that as virtue, or in the case of non-virtue too.
Lance,
Yes.
I have a technical, this is Sarah, I have a technical question. So in fact, in the Bardo of Dreams, their possibility of accumulating illusory good or bad karma is possible.
Yes.
If you can control your dreams and do what we believe are what we call virtuous behaviors within the dream state, we are actually accumulating potentially good karma.
Well, that's true.
In that state.
That's
wow.
true. Yes, go ahead.
That's mind-blowing to me.
Yes. But, it's very, very abstract to be able to do that. It's very difficult to do that. The way in which we do it is through our meditation.
Can you do it?
To some degree, sure.
All right. I'm going to think about that. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, very good. Thank you for the question. Anybody else have a question or comment right now? Okay. I'm trying to move through this briskly so that we can get the beginning to the end on this, but if you have, comments, that's great. Let's talk about it. Okay, I'm going to move on. So in the dream state, when this control bar keeps on coming up on my screen, you don't see it, but it gets right in the middle of the text, so I have to get rid of it. All right, so we did this. So causing cause and virtue to multiply. Then, hello. So causing merit and virtue to multiply. So we can cause our merit and our virtue to multiply. So if we're having good dreams, we're controlling our dreams, but like I said, it's easier to do in our meditation, and then that will become an influence that will give us the tools to be able to do it in our dreams, and of course in our waking state. So now such practitioners directly realize the truth of impermanence and reverse obstacles and negative circumstances. So that's exactly what we were just saying. Directly realize the truth of impermanence and reverse obstacles and negative circumstances. So through this, we're able to control, our circumstances, or our attention, or our inattention, or our laziness, or our forcefulness with the stuff that's all around us. This is our working basis as a human being. We're in this phenomenal nature, and we have to work with this phenomenal nature. We have to work with this physical body and intellect and this spiritual body and so on. So the practitioners are seizing that and saying, okay, these are the tools that I have. These are the best tools that I have now. And so that we can directly realize the truth of impermanence. And once we do that, there's a great liberation, because we're no longer tied to the idea that we're going to live forever. That's something that we always are trying to fantasize ways in which we're going to do that. We're going to get rescued by medical science, or we're going to be rescued by, some deity someplace who is going to take us to the heavenly pearly gates, and we'll live forever after in that state of heavenliness. So now we come to the Bardo of meditative concentration. So again, this is within the Bardo of waking. So here this occurs within the Bardo of birth. One abides within meditative absorption. So we've been talking about that recently. We've been using those words, meditative absorption. So we'll come back and we'll talk more about these things. So we've only been, briefly introducing these in the past weeks, but we're going to talk a lot more about these things. And it's up to you, each and every one of you, to really begin to develop your own meditative absorption, to give yourselves the opportunity to do that. That learning about it is one thing, but actually practicing it is quite another thing. So this is what the meditative concentration is talking about, that. Nobody can do it for you. You have to do it for yourself. So there's no delusional experiences of ordinary sentient beings. It says there's no delusional experiences of ordinary sentient beings. No delusional experiences of ordinary sentient beings, because all coarse and afflictive emotions subside. So what that means is, what we have to define is the word ordinary. Because I've said this before, right now we have what we might call our ordinary mind. And as we begin to learn to meditate, we start having these extraordinary experiences that are mind-blowing, and how wonderful they are. But as we become more of a deeper practitioner, as we become more of a yogi or a yogini who is in union with this transformation that is happening, that our extraordinary mind that has brought us to this point becomes our ordinary mind. And that what was the ordinary mind for us as having an extraordinary mind now, that becomes extraordinary. Say, why would somebody want to think those things? Why would somebody want to have those delusional experiences? So all our delusions become clear to us. All the delusions go away in the sense that they're no longer a mystery to us. They're not delusions, they're not ignorance. We brought that ignorance, which is delusion, we brought that and it has become illuminated. That even the things that we didn't understand before that were like darkness, now we have a method to be able to illuminate them. So there is no delusional experiences anymore to the ordinary mind of sentient beings. Right? To that meditative ordinary mind of sentient beings, because all the coarse and afflictive emotions now have subsided. They've gone away. We've transcended them. In some cases, we've been able to cut through the roots that were causing these things. But even when they do occur, we have no attachment or no aversion to them. When they do arise, because as we become more and more in union, as we become more and more yogis and yoginis, these events are still happening. Things are still going on around us, but we're not bothered by them. We're not attracted to them. We're in a samadhi. We're in a constant state of meditative concentration. We can walk, we can talk, we can function, we can do lots of things. But at the same time, we have no attachments or aversions toward any of those things. So this is that bliss that we talk about, the bliss and the emptiness of the permanence of the reality of what we think all this is. We're free from that, because all this coarse and afflictive emotions have subsided. This is the result of the meditative concentration. So this is the state of samadhi. This is characterized by experiences of great stillness and openness. This is the quietude, like a vast, calm ocean, like a bright, open sky. The mind is relaxed and spacious. Without following after, nor becoming entangled with either coarse or subtle thoughts, so that we are in that state of calm, abiding samadhi. Sometimes we can go into a state of vipassana. We go into a state of insight, and we can investigate, we can contemplate. It doesn't mean that that we have totally become a Buddha. To become a Buddha is to become completely perfected, completely realized. As a yogi or a yogini, as a high functioning practitioner, we're still as a human being. And we may have stable periods where we are able to maintain the samadhi, this mindfulness, this mahamudra, but we're very easily distracted. We're very easily pulled back by emotions and by things and so on. But it's through those vicissitudes, it's through those changes that we go through, they become the method in which we are being able to become stabilized in the samadhi. We recognize that these things happening are natural things, but it just shows us the work that we need to do, our habitual tendencies, that we need to continue to work to do it. But we do it joyously. We do it graciously. We do it happily. And we are always helping other beings to be able to do it. And through helping other beings is helping us to be able to recognize it within ourselves. So now we cross into the Bardo of death. It begins when the Bardo of life ends. It lasts from when the clear signs of death start to manifest, and until after the outer breath has ceased, the inner breath also ceases. So when the Bardo of life ends, when this period of our dreams, this period of our meditating, this period of our being awake and so on, our senses working and so on, stop working. And there's a whole process in this where our blood just begins to saturate into the flesh, into the body, and then the body begins to heat up and begins to decompose, and then that begins to be subject to being blown about. All the moisture is blown about by the winds and so on. So there's this whole process that we learn about in the Bardo Todhol. And I mean, these are medical things. These are things that they teach, medical practitioners. They may not be spiritualists, but these are things of the physical body. So when this Bardo of life ends, we're going through these physical changes, but we're also going through these spiritual changes. So we talk about that these outer breath is the physical changes that we're going through, and along with it is a intellectual visualization of things that are happening in our brain. They talk about, we see the white light, we begin to see, what seems like embers that are flying, sparks that are flying in the air and so on, and we begin to see these visions that we're going through the period of death. And then when all that is over, then the physical body has died. We're not breathing. We're not having a respiration with our lungs anymore. The physical body has died. The brain has died. We've flatlined. But there's still an inner breath. There is the spiritual breath, the spiritual respiration. We talked about that when we are born, or rather when we are conceived, that the spirit enters into the egg of the mother and the sperm of the father, and the three unite together and create this entity, this being that then grows and so on. So here is the transference of consciousness, where that consciousness that was coming together at that time of conception now is being released. This inner breath has to release. And this may not happen at the same time when our outer breath does. It may this inner breath may last for several days. Once the process of death begins, death cannot be halted or reversed. This is the physical part. There are people who are said to have had, experiences of going through the physical death and were able to how would I say, to bring themselves back, to say, my time is not ready, that they were able to control their death, and they were born, or not born again, but their life came back to them, so to speak. Maybe they were flatlined on the table, but miraculously they came back, something like that. So, but once that reaches a critical point, and once the inner breath has stopped, then there's no coming back. Once the inner breath has come back. If we did, I guess maybe the visualization might be as like zombies, and that's an extreme characterization of a fantasy. So the Bardo of death, what will be of benefit? Nothing from this life, material, position, power, etc. Nothing other than your spiritual practice and whatever positive karma you have managed to accumulate. So what will be of benefit when we die? We say, we came in the world naked, we go out of the world naked. We can't take any of our power, any of our clothing, any of our material things. We don't need them, and we couldn't take them if we wanted to. The only thing that we take is whatever degree of spiritual merit, we want to use that word, is what we take with us, that charged power, whatever it is that we have been able to develop, cultivate, and stabilize. That's what we take with us, and with that inner breath. That when we do the transference of consciousness, that's what we are taking. So whatever positive karma you have managed to accumulate, or whatever negative you take with you, the only thing that will be of any consequence will be of the virtuous and non-virtuous karma that you have created. So this is why we need to recognize, why we need to examine our lives, and we have the Eightfold Path. If you remember from the from the Four Noble Truths, we have the Eightfold Path to constantly be evaluating our lives. And are we on a virtuous path, or are we on a non-virtuous path? Do we need to be able to fix those things that are keeping us on a non-virtuous path, so that we can be virtuous and that we can minimize the karma, the results of that, and the attachments to that, so that we become simpler, we become purer, we become pristine consciousness, the clear light. The Bardo of death. This is all the Bardo of death. This very charged time, very powerful time, but it's a very short time. Very short. It only lasts maybe what could be minutes, could be last hours. Maybe for some it could last a few days. It's not over until the inner breath has been ejected. So during this time, we recall the pith instructions. We turn towards the three jewels. We use the POA, the consciousness transfer, the transference of consciousness, the practice, to completely let go of this life, to let go of attachments, to let go of fixations. So there's a process that we can utilize. But to be able to utilize that process, we have to familiarize with that, and we have to stabilize with that. It's not something we say we're going to do at the last minute and expect there's going to be great results. So it's something that we have to develop now. This is the gift of life that we have. Whatever time we have left, now, now we have a new purpose in our life to prepare ourselves for our death. We've gotten through it this far. And now, we got to say, oh, I'm so happy I've gotten through this far, because now the rest of my life I'm going to dedicate to what it's going to be when I pass away. So whatever ability you can develop in Dharma practice during this life will be of extremely great benefit to you at the time of death. Whatever ability you can develop in Dharma practice during this life will be of extremely great benefit to you at the time of death. So our Dharma practice is huge. Every Dharma practice is a rehearsal for death. And we've done it many times. We've died many times. We've been born many times. We've been through this process many times. And as we really deepen our meditative experience, the rehearsal for this, we begin to recognize, we begin to remember. Our sleep is another example of that. Some of us have a very difficult time going to sleep. And some of us have a very easy time of doing that. Some of us are ready to slip into that next bardo. Some of us are very resistant to do that. Some of us are very easily awoken out of our sleep or out of our meditation, or interrupted during our waking state. Some of us have one-pointed mindfulness in our waking state, have one-pointed mindfulness and control during our dream state, as well as in the meditative concentrative state. Because it's been developed, it's been cultivated, it's been worked on, it's been practiced over and over and over again. It doesn't happen by itself. We can just say, oh, well, everything's going to be okay. Everything's going to take care. I've been a good person. I haven't done anything bad. But, and that's fine. So the process of deterioration and dissolution. The Bardo of death, we're going through this process of deterioration and dissolution. Step by step, elements of the body dissolve and disperse. So, as I said before, we have a whole process that we articulate in the Bardo Todhol that reminds us of this, and that we can use to help other people who are going through this process. And you can have guides. You can ask lamas, or you can ask your spiritual brothers and sisters, your Dharma brothers and sisters, the Sangha, to support you during this period, to be doing prayers for you, to be reciting these prayers in a very profound, deep way, so that the light from their hearts is entering your body, your heart, your mind, with light. Because maybe the English language isn't working anymore, and you have to go to a spiritual level to be able to do that. So there are systems that are available that we learn about and we practice in order to help us to do that. The Bardo of death. So we're still in the Bardo of death. So the warmth of the body dissolves into the element of fire. The energy of the flesh dissolves into the element of earth. The energy of the blood dissolves into the element of water. The energy of the breath dissolves into the element of air. And the energy of the mind dissolves into the element of space. When all 5 elements have dispersed, the outer breath comes to a halt. So here's a little more detail, as Padmasambhava had written in his book. I'll repeat it again. The warmth of the body dissolves into the element of fire. The energy of the flesh dissolves into the element of earth. The energy of the blood dissolves into the element of water. The energy of the breath dissolves into the element of air. And the energy of the mind dissolves into the element of space. When all 5 elements have dispersed, the outer breath comes to a halt. So this is a meditation all by itself right here, to recognize that all this time we have these 5 elements of fire, earth, air, water, fire, earth, water, air, and space is within our humanness, within our physical body. And whether we were able to blast off from this planet and go out to the planet of Seremus, wherever that is, out in the far-flung universe someplace, these elements are still there. That we are part of that display of this phenomenal nature in this physicality, but also is this spirituality. Oops. The doctors and people around will pronounce death, but there's still the inner elements and inner breath. Once inner breath ceases, the inner stages of dissolution begin. Essences of the father and mother and physical body begin to move. The essences of the father and mother and physical body begin to move. So we're talking about this life force that we've had with us since the moment of conception, when the spirit came together with the egg and with the sperm came together, that life force. So these essences of the father and mother of the physical body begin to move along with the spiritual body. The spiritual body the physical body is passing away, and it just becomes pure spirit. Abides as a white drop at the forehead. This is called a tigle, a bindu. That's the father essence. And the mother essence abides at the navel as a red drop. When inner elements dissolve, both drops join at the heart. They come together. And then when the father and mothers meet at the heart, the most subtle consciousness leaves the body. The experience is like fainting away. However, an experienced practitioner can maintain awareness. So this process is very, very, very subtle. And we can practice this through the POA practice. This is what the POA practice is. And yesterday, when we were talking about the deity images, and we talked about Vajrayogini, and I said that she represents, the human being who is letting go, becomes that transference of consciousness, because there is nothing to hold back. There is just unqualified enjoyment of this whole process of the physicality, of the spirituality, and seeing no difference between that, where those have all become unified into something that is beyond even the concept of one. It has become non-conceptual altogether. So this consciousness leaves the body. So in 2 moments, 2 split seconds, the consciousness dissolves into space, and then space dissolves into clear light luminosity. Space dissolves into clear light luminosity. So this is that inexpressible dharmadhatu state of mind, non-objectifiable, unelaborated, non-duality. So all the meditation, everything that we talk about with the Mahamudra, all is preparing ourselves for this moment. The moment space dissolves into clear light luminosity, the moment when the inner breath ceases and the Bardo of reality begins. The Bardo of reality. This is the next Bardo. the Bardo of reality. This is called in Tibetan the Choni, the Dharmata, the Bardo of reality. Advanced meditators can recall the meditation experience, liberation through recognition, childlike, clear light luminosity. So now we've gone through the Bardo of death, and now we're into this Bardo of reality that is limitless. There's no words to explain it. It's beyond huge. It's beyond magnificent. There's no way to explain it. We can experience it through our meditation. We've experienced it many times because we've died many times. Where do we come from before we are born? We come from this Bardo of reality. Where do we go when we die? We go to this Bardo of reality. We've experienced it many times, countless times. And so through our meditative process, we can direct ourselves, we can control ourselves through our practices, our one-pointed mindfulness, etc., to be able to have that experience, to have a glimpse of that experience. And the more that we can stabilize our meditation, the more that we can have that experience over and over again, so that the experience becomes more than a glimpse, it becomes like a vision. It becomes deep, it becomes broader, it becomes higher, it becomes who we are. We become that vision, we become that being, we become enlightened. Advanced practitioners can recall meditation experiences. So when we enter into this Bardo of reality now as this physical, as this spiritual, mental body, as it's called in the Bardo Todhol, that we can recall our practices. We can recall those experiences. We can remember them and bring it. Now, we're not remembering the words. It is a luminous experience. And if we haven't developed the stability in that luminance, then we just don't see it. Or maybe we do. I don't know. I can't be that, I can't say for sure anything. But the point is that we are developing something that is beyond our everyday comprehension and our everyday ability to be able to talk about it, but only its experience. So liberation through recognition, realization of where you are, what you are doing, childlike, clear light luminosity. It's a mind blower. Clear light luminosity, the innate nature of the mind. This is the true nature of the mind. The ground, clear light luminosity. The Tathagata Garbha, Buddha nature. The meeting of mother and child. Tukdam, outer signs at the time of death. So these are all just, conceptual phrases to try and help us to recall and to inspire us to have this experience, to develop and our one-pointed mindfulness, to develop this meditative experience in rehearsal for this experience of the Bardo of reality. So this Tukdam is the outer sign at the time of death. So the Tukdam is the image of a great adept yogi or yogini who has been able to allow the outer breath to be extinguished and to maintain the inner breath until it's ready to be ejected, the ejection, the transference of consciousness. So here are two images, two photographs of this one. On the left is a 200-year-old Mongolian monk who has remained in this position, in this body, without decay, for 200 years. Here is another more recent Rinpoche, Tengo Rinpoche. I don't know exactly when he passed, but here he is sitting in Tukdam for a very long time, years. And his body has not changed because the inner breath is sustaining the body at this time. Once the inner breath has been ejected, then the body will begin to deteriorate and decompose, as we're all familiar with. So, not that we should spend 200 years in Tukdam, but the point is to be able to control the inner breath, to recognize that there is this inner breath, and we have control over it, and that we should prepare our families and those who are going to see to our body after that we have passed away, to give us the opportunity to pass through Tukdam and to be able to eject the consciousness as it needs to be. So this clear light luminosity, the dawning of the Bardo of reality, lasts for only a moment. Very short period, that is opportunity to be liberated by recognizing the ground clear light luminosity. It's a very short period that there is opportunity to be liberated by recognizing the ground clear light luminosity. So this is taken right from Kempo's book. The Bardo Todhol has a slightly different way of explaining this, and I look forward to the time when we can talk about this. But the point here is to say that we have a control here, and we have to develop the control. We have to maintain the control. The manifestation of the peaceful and wrathful deities. Well, let me see here. I see what I said. Okay, sorry. So in this clear light luminosity, so now we have passed into this Bardo of reality. This dawning of the Bardo of reality lasts for only a moment, this very short period. So we're in this Bardo of reality, and in this is the manifestation of the peaceful and wrathful deities. Upon not recognizing the ground luminosity, all sorts of appearances, lights and sounds and so forth, funhouse displays of the deity. So all these images that we have in Tibetan Buddhism, I'm going to stop this for a minute. So all these images that we have of these statues and these paintings and so on are all symbols of something, these experiences, these non-conceptual experiences, that maybe light can be the vehicle of the conversation between yourself and these things and so on, and developing things that are beyond our everyday human experience. And all these things here become mnemonics. They become the symbols of those things. So the more that we get familiar with these different things, the easier it is for us to be able to transcend the need for the language and so on like that. We become light. We become the luminosity. We become the radiance. All these things that we're talking about, these very abstract words, we become through our spiritual heart. The brain has already gone. The brain is gone. It's stopped. So we need to be able to express ourselves in this conversation, if you will, if I can use that, this spiritual conversation with ourselves in this Bardo of reality. So all this iconography and stuff is to help us to stimulate that conversation. So when you look at these images, now you just see the outer image. You don't see the inner meaning. And without the inner meaning, there's no secret meaning. You don't have a personal relationship with those images, with those thoughts and so on, with those inner thoughts, with those secret thoughts. You don't have them. But the more that we practice, the more that we do this, the more that you commit yourself to this, the more that you be able to start recognizing all these things and so on. And it's not that Buddhism has an exclusive, point of view about this. Other traditions have their versions of these things. Now, I can say that the Buddhism is very articulate in this, and is very compassionate in this, and it's very supportive in this. And I don't know of a better system to do this than the Buddhism. But I can't say that it's an exclusive system, that you can't experience this through other traditions and so on. So it's familiarizing yourself with all of this, and seeing that being a human being is the potential for a great many more things than the everyday intellectual stuff and physical stuff that we have absorbed ourselves with over these past number of years that we've been alive. So this itself should be inspiration to carry on. Okay, so going back to this again. Come on. We got to get rid of this bar. So manifestation of the peaceful and wrathful deities. All these images are all illusions, are all just characteristics, are just mnemonics that trigger spiritual thought with our heart mind. Upon not recognizing the ground luminosity, all sorts of appearances, lights and sounds, so forth. So it can be like a fun house. Like Kempo has described it like a fun house. It can look like all these different images, may be appearing. And if you're not familiar with the appearance, all this is your emotional mind, is your delusional mind that is playing this movie. It's like a dream. It's like a funhouse of all this stuff. But if you fixate on these illusions, then you're missing the point. You got to get past the illusions. You got to get past all that. So this again is what the four formlessnesses of the meditative concentration is about. First, there was the four mindfulness concentration, the absorptions. Then came the four formlessnesses. And this is expressed in the Mahamudra teachings. So the Mahamudra is like this mind of the meditation mind, for lack of a better word right now. I'll just try and describe it that way. But this is what we're pointing towards. This is what we're trying to get to. This is what we're guiding towards. So the manifestation of the peaceful and wrathful deities are projections of the mind, the self-manifestations of the mind. And we need no fear. We need to develop no fear. We need to attain the Sambhogagaya liberation. So these are projections of the mind. This is all stuff of the phenomenal nature. All stuff of the phenomenal nature, which we need to be able to liberate ourselves from. In order to do that, we need no fear. And to be able to do that, we need to rely on the Sambhogagaya liberation to help us to do that. So all this is all interconnected with each other. So I hope you're not getting overwhelmed by this. You probably are, but this introduction is meant as an inspiration to really work and dig into this. There's nothing better than this. However, if consciousness is not able to recognize these appearances of peaceful and wrathful deities as the mind's self-display, consciousness separates from the body at the point and enters the bardo of becoming. So in other words, if we're not able to stabilize the bardo of reality, our presence in the bardo of reality, and in our meditation, to be able to stabilize that quietude, to be able to stabilize that mental concentration, that samadhi. If we're not able to do that, then we come back into our ordinary body. So we all do that. We've done that many times. You know, very few of us have been able to do that in this present life, in that meditative process. So we go through a meditation, we may have a glimpse, but we're not able to stabilize it, and we come back into our ordinary, and we say, wow, I just had a great meditation, or I just had a far out meditation, or man, did I have a scary meditation, or something like that. I had an experience, but I can't tell you what it is. So that's the bardo of becoming. That's coming back into our body. So when we die, when we go through this whole physical thing here, which is much deeper than just our meditation, now we come into the bardo of becoming, where no longer coarse physical form of flesh and blood, the bardo body that has the nature of light, slightly luminous, gives off its own glow, no perception of sun and moon. Bardo beings instantly go to whatever place they think of, except into the womb of a mother. They desperately seek rebirth, crave a substantial body. Door to the womb is still blocked. So here is a lot of imagery and words to be able to characterize, this otherworldliness. It's almost like this mythology of this ghostliness and so on. Images pop up into my mind of what this is referring to, but to me, having studied this, it's much more subtle than that, and we need to look at this through the teaching of a guide like Guru Rinpoche Padmasambhava, because through there is a beauty to that. This is very stark, the way that this is being presented right now, but it should inspire us to look deeper, to go into these great texts, to go into these great practices and so on, to familiarize ourselves with this in a fundamental way that has no fear, does not speak of these things. So what we're trying to do here, it says the door to the womb is still blocked. So what we're trying to do, and what the great compassionate ones, what the Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas who are in this bardo of reality are trying to constantly use their compassion to keep us in the bardo of reality, to keep us in that, to become enlightened, to remain in that enlightened state of mind. And so they will do everything they can to block your becoming born again into being a human being or whatever. So they will do things. I can't think of the word, but they will do what they can to protect you from falling into any of the lower realms. The Bardo beings, a form of defiled clairvoyance, understanding the thought of others. So as we develop meditation, as we get deeper into meditation, we're going through these bardos. And we go through the bardo of becoming, we go through the bardo of reality and so on. And this is where we begin to develop, clairvoyance, and we begin to develop, these abilities to do what appear to be these supernatural things. Now, our ego can attach to these things. And there are people, who are yogis, like many of the Indian, from India, famous people and shamans and people, they fixate on being able to do these mystical things and so on, and they present themselves as these mystical beings. But a Buddha or a Bodhisattva, they don't do that. They have greater humility than that. And they know it's a trap to get stuck in those things. So they may be going through their meditative processes, practicing for their death and so on, but they're not characterizing themselves to other beings as being these great mystical beings that can do all these things, these clairvoyant things. But yet they can help us in very subtle ways. And we become those yogis and yoginis who can help other beings ourselves through our clairvoyance and our powers of being a spiritual being that we are strengthening through our constant meditation, through that samadhi that we're always in. So it says, those who accumulated huge amount of great virtue during their lifetime will go directly to the bardo of death, to a Buddha's pure land. Those who engaged in strongest non-virtues will instantly arrive in the hell realms. So what this is saying, that when a human being who is dying, or a being who is dying, if they have had great virtue, they will go directly to the bardo of Buddha's pure land. They will go directly to becoming a Buddha in that bardo of reality. Those who engage in the strongest non-virtues, who kill, who lie, who cheat, who steal, etc., they will instantly go to the lower realms, to the hell realms, or to the hungry ghost realms, or maybe even the animal realms, depending on what their depth of non-virtue is. The majority of beings who have accumulated a mixture of virtue and non-virtue wander for a while in the bardo of becoming. They suffer experiencing hunger and thirst, heat and cold, fear, anxiety and panic, and mercy of their karmic winds. So I would say that most of us, if not all of us here that are here tonight now talking about this, have been in the bardo of reality. We all know that we passed through there, but we have been able to spend a fair amount of time there because we've been good people. And we've been inspired, and we brought that inspiration with us as we were born again, because we couldn't stay there. We weren't stable enough to remain there. But it's like we got charged up with that spiritual energy. We got charged up with that, and we say we're going to take that charge, and we have to go back into another life in order that we can further refine ourselves, that we can further perfect ourselves, that we further can purify ourselves, and that we can further help other beings. And by working with other beings is how we are doing for ourselves, is how we are doing that purification and so on. But we did that because we were able to wander for a while in the bardo, and we were able to maintain there. We were able to recognize these things. How can we benefit those beings wandering in the bardo? We practice virtue on their behalf. Offerings to the three jewels, such as the monasteries, those in need, chanting or sponsoring recitations, consciously dedicate the roots of virtue to the deceased. So these are the things that we do as part of our practices. We learn about these things. We talk about these things. They're parts of our practices. The bardo of becoming lasts from the moment of death until one enters a womb, which is generally 49 days. and experiences in the first 21 days of the Bardo of becoming related to life left behind. Experience in the next 21 days relate to the appearances and approaching next life. So here is where the karmic imprints, such as the human realm and so on, all come into play. When we are doing Om Mani Padme Hum Shri, this is a mantra of compassion. This is called the liberation mantra. And the visualization, the highest form of the visualization is that we are sending out the light of each one of these syllables out to all beings that are in all these different bardos simultaneously to help them to recognize that light and to be guided by that light, to have a higher rebirth, to have a better rebirth, to become more spiritual, to recognize the karmic imprints, whatever they are. Here it says, such as being in the animal realm, or being in the God realm, or being in the demigod realm, etc., to the karmic imprints that we can recognize and have an aspiration to want to purify those imprints, to neutralize those imprints. It's really important for family and friends to make effort to practice only virtue for the 49 days after death. The deceased is at the crossroads where they may go up or down. Our thoughts and actions can affect which of their karmic seeds will predominate. So we can have an effect. We can have a guidance. We can have a help with these beings. So it's like, taking a flashlight and shining it against the wall, and whatever the strength of the single flashlight is. But then somebody else has a flashlight and they shine it on the same spot on the wall, and that spot on the wall gets brighter. And then somebody else has another flashlight and they shine it on the same spot, and that light becomes even brighter yet. But then you have many, many, many people with their flashlights shining it on the wall, and that light just keeps getting brighter and brighter and brighter and brighter, guiding. So that becomes a metaphor for what we can do for beings who are in the Bardo. That our mindfulness is focused on those lights going out to those Bardo beings. Difficult death, pain, suffering, and fear may indicate less favorable destination. Many different indications that can appear, many karmic dispositions. So there's lots of variables, there's lots of things that can happen, and it's our monkey mind. Because now we're back becoming a human being, and all these things are formulating in our mind that has not yet taken a form. And this is what this is what our spirit, our confused spirit, is looking for: a body, is looking for a mother and father, an egg and a sperm in which to unite, in which it can neutralize all this stuff. It's really important for family. Oh, I went backwards. Difficult pain, suffering, and fear may indicate less favorable. So there's many karmic dispositions. So that's what I just said. There is such diversity in the accumulations and ripening of the karma that manifests as an individual's path through the Bardo, that everyone's experience is unique. Everyone's experience is unique. There is such diversity in the accumulations and ripening of the karma that manifests as an individual's path through the Bardo. So this is why we say we start off learning the outer meaning of all these practices, etc. And then we learn the inner meaning of these. We're learning the intentions of the teachers, the intentions of the Buddha, the intentions of these practices, etc. We learn the inner meaning, and there's a degree of firmness with that. But then there is the secret meaning. Then there is the secret involvement, your own contemplation, your own involvement with this, which takes many different turns and so on. And everybody's experience is unique. And everyone is sacred. Everyone is holy. One is not better than another. And it's up to each one of those individuals to say, oh, I'm not quite on track. I need to come back to the outer meaning. I need to come back to the inner meaning. I need that structure again. I need to tighten it up. I need to purify more. So that's part of the process. And we need to allow all beings to do that. And this is why we can't be judgmental of our brothers and sisters. We don't know where they are. And we have to give them all the benefit of the doubt that they are doing what they need to do. If they ask a question, we'll do everything we can to help. But we don't have to go and be preaching to them or anybody else all these things, because we have to assume that everybody's on the path. And if they need help, they'll ask for it. If we need help, we need to ask for it. Sometimes our clairvoyance can bring us together with somebody, because if we have gone through this process and we have developed a degree of clairvoyance, we know, oh, well, maybe if I just hang around long enough, their fear factor is going to come down, and maybe they'll ask the question. But I can recognize, I can feel that maybe they need some help, but I'll just make myself available, but I'm not going to push myself onto them. So this is all metaphor for how all this works as a bodhisattva, as an enlightened being, one who has been through this process, one who's going through the process. And we can see many people going through the process at the same time. A sangha is a group of people, is a community of people who are all going through this experience, all in different degrees, all at the same time. And we have to have compassion for everyone in this situation. So thank you all very much. Any comments or questions?
Lance, this was so awesome. I'm trying to find another adjective. I'm so enlightened right now, Lance.
Now you know something of what you didn't know before, right?
I'm gonna go tonight and dream for good karma to happen.
Well, that's it. And there are prayers to help you to do that.
I was gonna watch Keeping Up with the Kardashians after this. I've decided.
That's funny.
I have a question or comment or something that's
Please.
one thing that's a little tough with me is I guess it's kind of maybe how like non-duality plays into it or something like that, where there's talk about you recognizing the clear light and the non-duality, non-dual nature of one's consciousness or of reality. But then other than that, and I guess maybe that gets to this stuff being illusory as well in the same way, but and other times when I've heard it explained, it's like it then becomes like so dualistic to me, where it's like there's consciousness like leaving the body and shooting out of the body, and like then there's like the material, and then there's the consciousness, and then it goes somewhere, then it finds matter again, and it goes into the matter, where it gets so dualistic in a way that's tough for me to be like, how could that be the way it works when things, like, well, then how are they interfacing if there is this duality to it, if that makes sense?
Well, you're looking at the outer reality of all that. When you're saying everything that you just said.
Yeah.
It's through the Guru Yoga. It's through the Guru Yoga that we learn, or that we begin to recognize the non-duality of it. So we can't consciously think about non-duality and make it manifest. It's how do you say? It's mutually exclusive. But it's through, that's where the teaching of the Buddhas, that's where the practice of the Buddhas, of becoming the Buddha, where you become non-dual. And that's the inner teaching. And then that inner teaching, then you as the deity, as you get up off the cushion, now as the deity, and you go out and you begin to interact, engage in the rest of stuff, how you deal with that becomes your secret meaning, how you do that. And you see that some things just don't work. Your preconceived ideas, your habitual tendencies are pulling you back, are pulling away from that inner meaning. You lost that non-duality. But then you find when you do things in certain ways, when you maintain that, how effortless that becomes. And so you're walking on the path, and you're designing your own path with all these tools that you're being given by the Buddhas.
Yeah.
So you have to engage. So the bottom line is you have to engage in these practices in the Guru
Yeah, for
Yoga
sure.
to be able to do it.
Yeah.
You can't, I can't do it. You know, maybe other people can. Maybe Bernie would have something to say about that, but I don't think you can intellectualize your way into enlightenment.
Oh, for sure. I don't think I couldn't imagine you could either, of course. Yeah, I agree with that.
So you got to practice your way into it.
Yeah, yeah.
Does that make sense to you, Bernie? Your microphone's muted. You're still muted. You're still muted.
Jeez.
There you are.
Okay. They talk about people who get it the first time they hear it, but these are generally considered people who practiced in their previous lives. It's very rare that you will get it without meditation practice. And we'll just leave it at that.
Yeah. Even the Buddha couldn't do that.
Oh, yeah, he practiced for 6 years before he
Yeah.
got
And how
enlightened.
many lifetimes before that?
And many lifetimes before that. Well, we've all been practicing for lifetimes.
Yeah. So but it's said that those who receive the teachings and those who contemplate the teachings and those who practice the teachings will have a stable meditative result.
Yeah, no, I'd certainly agree with the approach, and the spirit of my question is very much in like trying to help me work through like doubts that plague me at times around some of these things, like with rebirth, even or things like this that can be conceptual barriers. Obviously, this is all conceptual in anyway, all the things I'm saying, but trying to work through some of that, of some of these ideas I have about things that that just act as, at least have in the past, acted as barriers for me.
So a lot of those things are going to stay with you. A lot of those things are going to get are going to take years to work out. Some of them you're going to dispense with very quickly, but it's through the practices that happens. You know, so we're going to, like I've said before, we're going to start, on Sundays doing the deity yoga to give you a more and more of an experience, a familiarization of how it is that it works. And then, and we'll support that as much as we can. But each one of us needs to pick up the practice and work on it. Okay. Anybody else have a question or comment? When I'm going to say this because I know one or two people have dropped out, and when you do that, I understand, it's no problem, but you got to remember that there's three parts to every teaching, every practice that we do, every meditation that we engage in, etc. There's the motivational part, there's the main body of the practice, the teaching, whatever it is, and then there's the dedication part at the end. And the dedication part at the end may be the most important part, because that's where we're dedicating the merit for the benefit of other beings. We're letting go of our attachment, or we're letting go of our aversions to our doubts. We're letting go of our attachments to the qualities that we think we've gotten for this, and we're giving it all to other beings. So it's a selflessness practice. So if you got to leave, that's fine, but you should do the dedication. Even if you got your own book and you sit there by yourself and you recite it yourself, you should do the dedication. That's how important it is. So this is part of the firmness. This is part of the system. And there's elements that are there for a reason. And the more you do these, the more you see that the structure is what we need. This is the discipline of what we need. All the other stuff will fit in if you've got the structure there. If you didn't have your skeleton, you would just be a ooze that would be crawling on the floor. But because we have a frame on which to hang this body, everything works. So our spirituality works with this structure, with this frame. Any other questions or comments? Okay. Well, thank you all very much. I hope this was helpful. And if you have questions developed, don't hesitate to let me know. And I look forward to the next time. Thursday night, we're going to do Medicine Buddha. And then Sunday and Monday, we'll continue with Buddhism 201 and 101. So next week, we'll continue. On Sunday, we're going to do the practice for Shakyamuni Buddha. So we're going to prepare that. So you all have your booklets. I presume everybody's got it. If you need it, let me know, but I think everybody's got their copy. Okay, so who's the Umze is Gilmer and Christy are the Umze. So would you guys do the dedication prayer for us? And if you would do page 18, 19, and 20, if you would recite those dedication prayers, please.
18, 19, and 20. Okay. In English and Tibetan?
No, just the English.
Just the English, okay.
Dorje Chang, Talopa, Naropa, Marpa, Milarepa, Dharma Lord Genpopa, Padma Drupa, and Lord Drikampa. Please bestow upon us the most auspicious blessings of the Kagyu Lama. By this virtue may I achieve the all-knowing state, and may all who travel on the waves of birth, old age, sickness, and death cross the ocean of samsara by defeating all enemies, confusion, the cause of suffering. Bodhicitta, the excellent and precious mind, where it is unborn, may it arise, where it is born, may it not decline, but ever increase higher and higher. I pray that the Lama may have good health. I pray that the Lama may have long life. I pray that your Dharma activities spread far and wide. I pray that I may not be separated from you. As Manjushri the warrior realized the ultimate state, and as did Samantabhadra, I will follow in their path and fully dedicate all the merit for all sentient beings. By the blessings of the Buddha who attained the three kayas, by the blessings of the truth of the unchanging Dharma as such, by the blessings of the individual Sangha order, may the merit I share bear fruit. By the virtues collected in the three times, by myself and all beings in samsara and nirvana, and by the innate root of virtue, may I and all sentient beings quickly attain unsurpassed, perfect, complete, and precious enlightenment. May the teachings of the great Drinkumpa Ratnashri, who is omniscient Lord of the Dharma, master of interdependence, continue and increase through study, practice, contemplation, and meditation until the end of samsara. Om Ahum. Om Ahum. Om Ahum. Mangalashri Swala
Jambavita Alankara Bhavantu. By the virtue of this Dharma work, may all sentient beings be free from suffering and attain enlightenment. Sarva Mangalam. May all beings and activities be auspicious for the benefit of the enlightenment of all sentient beings.
Very good. Thank you very much. Thank you all.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks, Lance.
All right. Thank you, Matt.
Thank
You're
you.
going to take care of things.
Yeah, I got it.
All right. Very good. Thank you.
Thank you, Les.
You're welcome. Thank you, Gary.
Yeah.
And Lance, if you could put that PDF in the thing, I would love to see it or have that.
Okay.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
Great idea. Thank you.
If
Good night,
anybody
everyone.
wants it printed, I can print it and mail it to you. Okay.